and Brown University, great school, great, really one of the greatest schools anywhere in the world. Things can happen.
Hey, before I get started here, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be appearing on the Letter Hacks channel, where he's going to be apparently asking me questions. And I know this thumbnail looks a little ominous, but I'm sure it'll be a good time. And I hope that you will join us. It always is when I join Matt. So let's talk about the clear and present danger that is Donald Trump, about his abject lack of empathy, his lack of compassion, his lack of leadership, his lack of servant leadership, certainly. Rob Reiner and his wife, it appears as though they were murdered in their home this weekend. Rob Reiner, legendary Hollywood director, one of the stars of the All in the Family sitcom from the, I guess, 70s. Vocal critic of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump saw fit, in the wake of this family's tragedy, the loss of their loved one, father. It's beyond me that we have a president of the United States who would talk of a constituent the way that Donald Trump did on Truth Social. It goes beyond talking about how pathetic or out of the norm. It's just not decent for a person to act this way. Not even taking into account the fact that he is a representative of a constituency that includes every person in the country, not just those who voted for him. This is where we are with the Rob Reiner story from CNN. Rob Reiner and his wife have died, families say, as police investigate apparent homicide. Legendary Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, the producer Michelle Singer Reiner, have died, according to a spokesperson for the family who added, "We are heartbroken by this sudden loss." Los Angeles Police Department detectives are at the Reiners' home and are investigating an apparent homicide. Investigators were also interviewing a family member Sunday evening regarding their deaths. A law enforcement source familiar with the investigation told CNN. Reiner's prolific work included directing When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men. His breakout role was as Archie Bunker's son-in-law on TV's All in the Family. He also did Spinal Tap, a few others. I mean, absolute legend in that business. Donald Trump saw fit, rather than mourn the loss of an icon in American entertainment, at the very least, rather than offer condolences, even thoughts and prayers to the survivors of his family, Donald Trump took to Truth Social and posted this. Again, the president of the United States, the man who represented, before his death, Rob Reiner, as an American, as a constituent, as a citizen of this country. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away. Together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. You're making a joke out of the murder of another human being, of an American citizen, as someone that you represent as president of the United States. You fucking garbage ghoul. Making jokes about Trump derangement, assigning some motive to this murder, that it was because of his unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease, reportedly due to the anger. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Adam Serwer, I believe, popularized or coined the phrase, cruelty is the point, and this is the point here. It is cruelty. It is to leave in his wake misery, doubt about the future of our country. It is to leave in his wake fear and death and destruction. Donald Trump does not possess the ability to feel empathy for someone else because he's a sociopath, a psychopath, one and the same. He is not the consoler in chief. He's a garbage piece of shit who in a family's the most chaotic, tragic moment of their lives comes with this. No surprise, of course. In the wake of the shooting at Brown University that left 2 people dead, 9 injured, with a suspect on the run, we don't know, because the FBI, because of the person Donald Trump put in place, gave the wrong person. They wasted critical time investigating someone who was not guilty of the crime. Donald Trump had a Christmas reception yesterday, and this was his message of condolence at a Christmas reception.
Hello, doctor. How are you? Hello, everybody. This is so great. And before we begin, however, I want to just pay my respects to the people. Unfortunately, 2 are no longer with us. Brown University, 9 injured, and 2 are looking down on us right now from heaven. And likewise in Australia, as you know, that was a terrible attack, 11 dead, 29 badly wounded. And that was an anti-Semitic attack, obviously. And I just want to pay my respects to everybody. I must say in Syria also, we had an attack in Syria, and we had 3 great patriots terminated by bad people, and not the Syrian government. It was ISIS. Syrian government fought by our side. The new president fought by our side. But I just want to pay my respects to the families. We also had 3 injured, but 2 of them are already out of the hospital, and one's going to be okay. But we lost 3, so it was a rough day. But to Australia and the Prime Minister, to everybody that we know so well, we get along with so well, we have a great relationship. That's a terrible situation going on over there. Think of that. And Brown University, great school. Great, really one of the greatest schools anywhere in the world. Things can happen. So to the 9 injured, get well fast, and to the families of those 2 that are no longer with us, I pay my deepest regards and respects from the United States of America. Thank you very much. It's a very important thing to say, and we mean it.
Things happen? That's it? Things happen. Well, I guess we can take a little solace in the fact that he's not saying that the shooting was due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. At least that. At least he didn't try to make the Brown shooting about himself and his wild accomplishments in this administration. If you're defending this, if you're looking the other way while this happens, you are also terrible. But you know that. If you're one of my MAGA trolls who regularly watches every single moment breathlessly that I might mention you, and you're okay with this, you are no better than Donald Trump. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We need to start having a tough talk about what it's going to look like on the other side of MAGA, on the other side of Donald Trump, because he's not going to live much longer. You're not 80 years old with bruises all over you. You can't walk right. You can't think right. You traffic in cruelty at every moment of your life. He's not going to live much longer. And we got to start thinking, planning, plotting, if you will, what we will be post Donald Trump. I love and appreciate you very much. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me, as always, daily at dollemore.com. It's just this easy, Donald Trump. Here's what you do. I am saddened by the loss of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. My deepest condolences to the families. Violence of any kind, murder like this, will be dealt with under the law, through justice, through an investigation and an appropriate trial. But in the meantime, we're with you. See how easy that is, Donald Trump? Simple. You don't make it about yourself. You don't make it about someone who you don't like because they didn't like you. They didn't like your policies. They spoke against you. You need to be the bigger man. But we know Donald Trump is incapable of being the bigger person, the better person. It's not in him.
Then we have a man who, to me, this is the most interesting story. Boy, do you look like Ivanka. Has anyone ever told you that? I'm saying, is that Ivanka? Could you just turn around for the camera?
You know, they say at the end of life, when you are suffering from a memory condition, like Donald Trump very likely is, when you have whatever stage of Alzheimer's you're in, oftentimes there is a frustration that develops because of the fact that you no longer can comport yourself or think the way you used to, or recall things the way you used to, behave the way you used to, live the way you used to, and it's deeply frustrating. And so patients with this affliction often lash out. They often regress to a period in their childhood when no one really expects a child to act patient because they're children. Babies cry because it's the only way they know how to communicate. Well, it's kind of the same thing, and that's what's happening with Donald Trump right now, I believe. Donald Trump is slipping away before our eyes, and there was no better example of it than yesterday when he was giving remarks at a Christmas reception. Keep that in mind. The things you're getting ready to hear were spoken at a Christmas reception that was about 40 minutes long. And I was going to play him rambling in this weird things happen, weird condolence speech or message at the very top of the thing, but I already played that, so we're going to skip that. What I want to do is really drill down on the fact that Donald Trump does not have a grip on reality. He is untethered from the same reality that we share. He lives in a fantasy land of his own creation, fueled by his delusions, fueled by his dementia, fueled by his mental illness, his ego, his lack of self-esteem, his weakness, his fecklessness. And in this first clip, it's him trying to convince everybody that so much money has been taken in, so much money has been taken in by his tariffs, that now he's inflating the number. The number's not even $200 billion for the year, by the way. I'll back that up with Donald Trump's own figures from his own United States Congress Joint Economic Committee. From his Republican Party has approved the numbers I'm getting ready to read. But he wants you to believe that it's not 195 billion, which is a 20% of a trillion. It's 200 billion is 20% of a trillion, right? He wants you to believe it's $18 trillion that we've taken in because of tariffs. That's disconnection from reality. Watch this.
But, and it was to an extent, because without the November 5th election, you would have had a president that didn't have the courage to use tariffs the way they should be used. And because of the tariffs, we've taken in more than think of this, $18 trillion. There's never been anything like it. As an example, the previous administration, Sleepy Joe Biden, took in less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We took in more than 18 trillion in 10 months.
18, huh, Don? 18, huh, fascist? Here's from the United States Congress Joint Economic Committee. U.S. deficit decreases 2.8% to 1.8 trillion in fiscal year 2025. Remember last week he said it was down 64%. Here, the actual number is 2.8. In fiscal year 2025, the nation ended with a $1.78 trillion deficit, 50 billion, 2.8% less than 2024. Leading to the decreased deficit impact was the record-setting tariff collections of $195 billion for fiscal year 2025. I don't need to walk you through the differences between what $195 billion is and 18 trillion. They are in completely different stratospheres. It's not just an exponential difference in growth or orders of magnitude larger. It is insane that Donald Trump would assert something that is provably false, $18 trillion in tariffs. Moving on, we'll just go in chronological order here. A moment where he's talking, he's getting ready to launch into his 10-minute story about a snake bite and a doctor and some guy who wrote a book. Only 40 minutes long, this event, the little remarks of Donald Trump were 40 minutes, 41 minutes, like 55 or something like that. And he spent 10 minutes rambling about snake bites while the crowd was hushed into confusion and silence. But before he did that, he's getting ready to launch into it, and he spots a woman in the crowd, and he's completely thrown off, completely distracted. Because why? The woman looks like Ivanka, and he makes her turn around. I think he's convinced it's Ivanka. Detached, slipping away before our eyes. Watch this.
So one of the greatest in the world, the two of those guys, the greatest. Then we have a man who, to me, this is the most interesting story. Boy, do you look like Ivanka. Has anyone ever told you that? I'm saying, is that Ivanka? Could you just turn around for the camera? Does she look like Ivanka? It's the most unbelievable thing. So I didn't want to take a chance. I say, is that Ivanka? You look just like Ivanka, which is a great compliment, actually. So.
Not normal, not good, dangerous for the Republic to have this addled lunatic that is surrounded by people who won't recognize that he is an addled lunatic, who tell him, yes, dear leader, everything is good. You're the best. You're the strongest. You're the smartest. And here, we're not going to play this whole thing. We'll just kind of, I just want to demonstrate how diabolically idiotic Donald Trump is. He launches into this story about a doctor named Dr. James Jones, who's a White House physician, apparently, who wrote a book, apparently, about a snake bite incident or something. And he rambles for like 9 minutes and 45 seconds. It's just remarkable that this is the president of the United States, that Jake Tapper's out there writing books about Joe Biden, yet this is what we got now, and crickets from Jake Tapper. Yeah, fantastic. Watch this.
We have a doctor in the White House named Dr. James Jones. Can I tell the story? Well, Dr. James Jones is a great doctor. He was the White House doctor during the Obama administration. And he said Trump is in the best health of all. Dr. James went on a trip to Peru. Was it Peru? In Peru, 28,000 people die a year from a snake bite, a certain snake. It's a viper, right? And the guide said, oh, don't worry, we never see that snake. It's over-exaggerated, even though 28,000 people a year die. That's not over-exaggerated. For 2 weeks, they're traipsing around in Peru. Final day, final 2 hours, he gets hit by a viper, right? This is a terrible Christmas story, but it's a hell of a story because I'll tell you what happened. The viper missed him. It hit his jacket. The viper hit him a second time, and this time it got him on the arm. And because of Doc Ronnie Jackson, he knew from the description and the location what kind of a snake it was. And they had the venom just in case. The black mamba, the brown mamba, and the viper from Peru. And he made it. Look how quiet everybody is. You know, it's funny when you talk about snakes and things like that, people find it interesting. And here's the story. The purpose of the story is that he wrote a book, and it has a cover of the White House and this vicious snake, and it is vicious. Teeth are like this, those fangs. These are not fangs you want, sucking on your arm, right? As you had. So he wrote a book 3 years ago. Wildlife always wins. When I kick the bucket someday, he'll go and pay his respects and we'll say, where's Don? He'd rather be in some jungle. So what happened, Dr. Jones wrote a book, and the book was amazing. I said, I want to get that book. I got it. And the cover is unbelievable. Now, here's the bottom line. So you had this book. He gets a call 2 days ago. I put out a Truth Social yesterday. They sold 100,000 books. It's the #1 bestseller. The power is incredible of animals, He said the good Lord saved him. I can maybe say that too. It's an amazing story. I want to just explain a couple of things, and then I'm going to just leave by saying have a great Christmas.
Slipping away, untethered from reality. And we suffer because of it. He lives in absolute luxury, waited on hand and foot by hundreds of people, while he endeavors to make this a white ethno-state. And we're not supposed to say anything. And the people who are charged with calling out moments like this are silent. The corporate media, the mainstream media, who want their access to Donald Trump. They want to be able to ask their questions and get their clicks and get their ratings, while not reporting on the clear decline, the clear slipping away from reality from the rest of us. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it.
This person of interest needs to be and should be released. I think what is really unfortunate that this person's name was leaked to the public.
One of the reasons you put qualified, capable, skilled, dedicated public servants in their roles is for public safety. It's for the betterment, the general betterment of our society, the smooth, orderly operation of law enforcement and removing threats to the public safety. I mean, it goes unsaid that you don't want some dolt, you don't want some idiot who has zero law enforcement experience as the director of the FBI. You want someone who is skilled and adroit and has an understanding of the mechanisms and the powers of the FBI, of their particular law enforcement branch, understands the constraints placed on them by the Constitution, understands the intricacies that I have no idea about investigatory processes. We don't have that because Donald Trump saw fit to put an ass-kissing goon, a yes man, a sycophant, a bootlicking lapdog as the director of the FBI, who jumps the gun and names the suspect now in multiple cases. And then that suspect ends up not being the person who did the crime, who's harassed and detained by police in service to him jumping the gun and posting on social media. And that's exactly what's taking place right now in the shooting, the tragic loss of 2 individuals and 9 wounded in Providence, Rhode Island at Brown University. Look at this headline from the AP. Authorities say they will release person of interest detained in Brown University shooting. They will. We're going to have to do it. He's not the guy. And if you're wondering, did they ever do that? Yeah, they did. Here's NBC. Person of interest in Brown shooting released from custody as manhunt continues. 2 people were killed and 9 wounded in the Saturday shooting at Barris and Holly building. And you might be wondering, well, where'd they get that tip? Well, how did the police get it so wrong to pull in an innocent person to harass and detain an innocent person? Well, they got the person's name from Kash Patel.
So if the FBI director specifically said in his tweet that it was a tip from Providence Police that led you all to Hampton Inn, can you confirm if that's true, and what exactly was the evidence that led you to this person of interest?
Yeah, so it was there was a tip that came in, just like we were taking any other tips, and that one came in specifically identifying a person of interest, which was this individual. And so our detectives got on it, just like they got on others, but in this specific one, it was actually picked up by the FBI, and they followed through with it, and they ended up coming and locating this individual of interest, and at that point, we did a thorough investigation, examined, ended up drafting some search warrants, came up with some evidence, but that evidence was examined, and we didn't have enough, obviously, to be able to prosecute anybody, and so the person was released.
That is Oscar Perez, the chief of police of the city of Providence, Rhode Island, who's, we didn't get this information from, this was from the FBI. We no longer have a Federal Bureau of Investigation that can be trusted. As witnessed last week when the dipshit was trying to talk about Antifa being a grave threat to the Republic as a domestic terrorist threat, of a domestic extremist threat, and couldn't name where they're headquartered because there isn't one. Couldn't name any of the chief lieutenants or the infrastructure membership because there isn't one. And this is because they're attending to the fantasies of Donald Trump. They've put idiots and feckless, skillless morons in charge while real crimes need to be solved, because this person of interest, who's not a person of interest, who got released, him being released means there's an actual killer on the loose. They're using finite resources to investigate people who are innocent of the thing they're being accused, while the real killer gets farther and farther and farther away from the scene of the crime. That's not just not doing investigations well. That's the reverse. You're actually making things worse. And if you don't believe, you're like, well, we can't believe that some chief of police. Why would you believe that it's Kash Patel? Well, here's the tweet. An update on the @FBI response at Brown University. @FBI Boston established a command post to intake, develop, and analyze leads and run them to the ground. We activated the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey team to provide critical geolocation capabilities. As a result, early this morning, FBI Boston's Safe Streets Task Force, with assistance from U.S. Marshals and the Coventry, Rhode Island Police Department, detained a person of interest in a hotel room in Coventry, Rhode Island, based off a lead by the Providence, Rhode Island PD. They got it from Kash Patel. And now they're farther away, more distant from solving the case. And the reason this is dangerous is not just the public at large. It's also because of this particular individual who was harassed, whose rights were stomped upon. whose liberties were denied while being against his will. He has no choice in the matter. He must be detained for questioning. And again, I'm not the only one who believes that. Rhode Island officials are bummed about what took place. The delay in justice here, the delay in the investigation, the distraction from getting to the root of this. Watch this.
That work continues, and it will continue tomorrow. Our prosecutors were there, 6 in total. Our victim services folks were at the hospital. But this is what these investigations look like. I've been around long enough to know that sometimes you head in one direction, and then you have to regroup and go in another. And that's exactly what has happened over the last 24 hours or so. Collectively, the team developed leads in a number of areas. One was chased to ground. It led to us detaining a person of interest. And so those words and how we choose those words when we're talking about an investigation matter. And what it means here is that certainly there was some degree of evidence that pointed to this individual, but that evidence needed to be corroborated and confirmed. And over the last 24 hours, leading into just very, very recently, that evidence now points in a different direction. So what that means is that this person of interest needs to be and should be released. I think what is really unfortunate that this person's name was leaked to the public. It's hard to put that back in the bottle, okay? So we're going to proceed very carefully here.
And that's what this is. I mean, this is about the fact that it's unfortunate the guy's name was leaked for sure, but you need corroboration of that evidence. It's just it's a breakdown of basic investigatory processes. It's rookie shit. It's things that if I was the FBI director, thank God I am not for the sake of the country, that I would know. That you don't go rush to Twitter and without corroborating what's going on. You want to keep certain things close to the vest. You don't want to be a braggart about, I know who it is. I have the secret information that you don't. Here you go, Twitter. Let the investigation play out, Cash. I mean, if you're going to be in the job, at least try to do the job well. At the very least, try that. I know you're probably not taking unsolicited advice from YouTubers, but for the sake of these families who are seeking justice and answers, for the sake of justice for the victims, maybe try. Just grasp at a try. We're begging you. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments. You can do it on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching the video, because he wants to be our tyrannic dictator. Our king, our sovereign. We are but subjects to the crown of Donald Trump. I will be beside myself with joy when I can once again resume duties as an internet political commentator, not having to talk about the Republican Party being the most effective and dangerous white supremacy organization on the planet. It'll be nice. Donald Trump once again is proving himself to be animated by white supremacy, by the erasure of black contributions in this country to our culture, to our science, to our military, to our very freedom. I talked last week a little bit about all the things that Donald Trump is naming after himself and putting his face on. And I'll give you a little, not a preview since I played it last week. I'm going to play it for you again, but I talked a little bit about the move underway of Donald Trump trying to put his face on our money. And it seems as though the story is worse than I had once thought, because he's not just putting his face on our money. It comes at the expense of black heroes in our country. Notably, Ruby Bridges, the young girl, 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, who was the tip of the spear for desegregating schools, I believe in Louisiana. A hero, an icon of American history. Still alive, by the way, Ruby Bridges. Tells you just how far removed we are not from our racist past, from white supremacy under color of law in this country. And also Frederick Douglass, who represents the abolitionist movement. Both of those people are being removed from consideration to be placed on the money. And instead, Donald Trump is going to put his face on. White supremacist, a man who endeavors to create a white ethno-state in the United States, is removing from consideration two black individuals. This is from the New Republic. Trump scraps abolition coins, features himself instead. The Trump administration nixed commemorative coins meant to honor abolitionists and women in favor of honoring more old white men. To celebrate America's 250th birthday, President Donald Trump is commemorating the most important person in the country's history, himself. This is where we are. Look, I know it's a little tongue-in-cheek for someone to write that, but that is how Donald Trump feels. Donald Trump has said he's the most important president in the history of our country. He's done more for black people than any other president, including Abraham Lincoln, while he erases thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of photos of the contributions of black military members who served valiantly, bravely, heroically, served this country. Back in 2021, days after the January 6 riots that Trump saw fit to bring us, he incited the insurrection against the country in an attempt to overthrow the United States government by overturning a free and fair settled American election. That same Donald Trump and that same January 6th, Trump signed an act to authorize the creation of new coins to celebrate the country's 250th anniversary. The act specified that one coin be focused on women's contribution to history. In response, a bipartisan committee came up with some recommendations. A coin featuring Frederick Douglass to represent abolition, one with a Votes for Women flag to honor women's suffrage, and a coin featuring 6-year-old Ruby Bridges, who helped desegregate her school in 1960. Great recommendations, right? To feature a cross-section of individuals and groups that have fought and gained more equality through progress. Nah, not important to Donald Trump. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who has ultimate say, did not follow these recommendations, reported the New York Times. Instead, the new coins will feature a pilgrim couple on the Mayflower, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Abraham Lincoln. The Trump administration apparently was not satisfied with the already significant coin representation of 3 out of 4 of these being historic American men. And then the collection's piece de resistance, a Trump dollar coin featuring the president's likeness on both sides. Featuring Donald Trump's likeness on both sides. Against the law, by the way. It is worth pointing out that it is incredibly abnormal and some would argue anti-American to have a sitting president on a coin. Washington refused to have his likeness on a coin while he was president, as it felt too king-like for the leader of the newly freed United States, according to the Times. Trump, apparently, has no such qualms because he wants to be our tyrannic dictator, our king, our sovereign. We are but subjects to the crown of Donald Trump, to the power and majesty of His Highness Donald Trump, who wants to name everything after himself, who wants to put his face on our coins. And again, this is just another example that we can add to the list that I talked about last week. Here is that, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Fascist dictators and thugs love to erect statues of themselves and name state-related government institutions and organizations after themselves and put their faces on currency to convey power, dominance, and total control. Donald Trump is doing this very same thing right now, taking his place alongside other such garbage humans like the Kims in North Korea, Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Bashar al-Assad of Syria, Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, and many others. You may think this is an exaggeration to say that, but it's not. Here are just a few of the things that Donald Trump has done since taking office or is doing to prove me right. Are you ready? Here we go. Almost immediately upon taking office a second time, Trump started hanging giant banners of himself on government buildings with his face on them. And his sycophant partners in fascism at the Heritage Foundation saw fit to do the same. Trump has illegally redesigned our National Park Service park entry cards to have his face on them. He's replaced Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth, which are both federal holidays, with his own birthday as a free entry day into our nation's national parks. And speaking of his toddler-like affection for his own birthday, remember his big birthday parade? There's the Trump savings accounts for kids, Trump RX, the Trump Gold Card, which rich people can use to buy permanent residence in the United States for $1 million. A bill has been introduced by Trump lapdog Republicans to rename Dulles International Airport after Trump. He's renamed the Institute of Peace the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, even as war crimes allegations swirl around him and Pete Hegseth. He wants the new Washington Commanders NFL stadium named after himself. He wants to rename the Kennedy Center after himself. And there's a move afoot to illegally engrave his heavily make-upped face onto our American currency. One of these things listed, I guess, could be explained away. But this list, taken together in its entirety, should paint a picture of an unwell dipshit who yearns to be our king, our dictator, our dear leader. There is no longer an argument to be had. It's not a discussion anymore. Donald Trump is a fascist. Donald Trump wants to be a tyrant, a dictator, an autocrat, an authoritarian type. That's what he wants. He's putting his fucking face on our money while he's still in office. Not just that he's still alive. Like if they wanted to put George W. Bush's face on something, he's still in office. He's the sitting president of the United States. And he's putting his name on everything. They want to rename airports after him. They want this to be Trump's country, not the Republican Party's country, Trump's country. Not our country, not Americans' country. No, Trump's country. It's Trump's party. It's Trump's country. It's Trump's White House. He can demolish it and build a 90,000 square foot ballroom encrusted with gold for his billionaire pals. Wake up, Republicans. You want freedom. You want to oppose tyranny. You want to fly your don't tread on me fucking flags. Why don't you start living like you don't want to be tread upon? How about that? What do you think? I invite you to this conversation.
Do you want your kid to be a thought leader or an assassin? That's where we're at.
Do you think our political leaders have a responsibility to turn the temperature down right now?
Well, I think everyone has a responsibility to do that, and I'm doing my part. I'm not in control of other people.
So it seems as though CBS is an absolute lost cause. CBS News, now run by Barry Weiss, just abject nonsense, had this full-featured event on CBS where they're platforming the racist Christian nationalist bigot's widow, Erica Kirk, who is just in performance mode at every waking moment. Look, let me say this, because I have deep empathy for the woman who just lost her husband. I don't believe that she's not mourning. I don't believe any of that. I believe she is sad. I believe she is probably still twisted up inside over losing her husband and the father of her children, for sure. But there's also something else at hand here. Two things can be true at the same time, and she is just putting on a show so often. Even CBS in Barry Weiss is putting on a show promoting this event where they're going to have, she sits down with a town hall questioning Erica Kirk about everything. Well, watch Barry Weiss, who now leads CBS, promoting this event.
I just sat down for an hour with Erica Kirk and we talked about everything. We talked about what was going through her head when she stood on that stage and forgave her husband's alleged murderer. We talked about all of the conspiracies surrounding his assassination. And of course, we talked about grief, political violence, and so much more. Watch this Saturday night on CBS at 8 p.m.
She's doing the walk and talk, so you know it's really important. The walk and talk is how you know. She's moving her hands while she's looking at the camera. You know it's going to be important. Come on. What are we doing here? What is the deal with this performative nonsense? Look, I realize that the news in some modicum of, in some way is entertainment. It's a ratings-driven thing. It's a profit motive thing. I get that. But this is just untoward. This is putting a rube in charge, someone who has no experience in news. Bari Weiss is effectively me. She does what I do. She's a commentator on our headlines and on politics and on our culture and society at large. She's a pundit. She is not a news person. She's not a journalist by any stretch. Yet the billionaire Donald Trump pals saw fit to put her in charge of CBS News to make it the new Fox News. And that is certainly what they've done here. We're going to start with this second promo where Bari Weiss goes on CBS Sunday Morning or CBS Mornings and talks about with like confusion over forgiveness, over the difference between theological, religious, spiritual forgiveness and secular justice in a democratic republic. Earthly justice, that the two things are separate, and it just blows Bari Weiss's mind.
Well, she is a deeply religious Christian, and that's a theme that came across quite powerfully in the conversation. I'm not Christian, but bearing witness to something that in her is clearly very deeply held and sincere was quite powerful and powerful for everyone in the audience. I think the thing that was baffling for many of us that watched that, I mean, I remember watching it and thinking, I can't understand this. What does this mean? She was able to explain the distinction between forgiveness as a personal choice to almost let go of something, to not let it be this anvil around her, and forgiveness in the mode of her faith, and to make a distinction between that and her desire for justice, which is quite different. It doesn't mean that she forgives it doesn't mean that she does not want this alleged murderer
to be held accountable.
And I think that's the really, really important distinction.
You don't need to explain forgiveness, the concept of forgiveness, Bari, to anybody. We get it. And as a former evangelical right-wing nutter butter Christian, I can tell you this is standard fare in Christian theology. This is talked about from the time you're a child. That, yeah, you could be forgiven for something and still be held accountable for the crime. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting that it happened. Forgiveness on a spiritual plane, at a theological level, at a doctrinal level, has nothing to do with actually facing the consequences for the crime you've committed. If indeed a crime is what we're talking about here. It's not confusing. It's not earth-shattering. It is basic shit that is taught in Sunday school. And even you don't even have to be a Christian or a follower of Jesus Christ or even understand the philosophies of the man to understand what forgiveness is versus what justice is. It's not confusing. I wanted to lead with that because it goes into this moment where a man who was in the audience when Charlie Kirk was shot is asking Erica Kirk about whether or not she will condemn Donald Trump's calls for political violence. He even names what those are, those moments where he's calling for the hanging of Democrats who just stated what the law is, that military members should only follow legal orders, lawful orders, and Donald Trump wants them hanged for it. It's insane. And this is the question asked to her. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play this clip. It's about 2 minutes long, maybe slightly longer than that. There'll be a timer at the top. I want you to remember the question and try to listen for an answer. He says, will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on the earth? Will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump? That's the question. Listen for her saying, yes, I will condemn Donald Trump, or no, I won't condemn Donald Trump. It's an easy answer. It should be an easily come to answer. The answer should be, yes, I will condemn any call for political violence, right? After all, political violence destroyed her young family. It should be an easy determination.
And this leads me to Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth, who has more responsibility than anyone else to put the flames out. Just last month, President Trump called on 6 Democratic lawmakers to be tried for sedition, which he clarified was punishable by death. He then reposted a simple message: hang them. I think that you've been making strides to bring peace to our country, and that Turning Point has been asking Democrats to decry the individuals who cheer for violence. I have and will continue to decry them. But any good faith effort to stop political violence must hold both parties to the same standard and expectation. So in that spirit, will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth?
I appreciate your question. You know my heart. Why would I ever say, yes, go murder people? This is so much deeper than just one. I understand your sentiment. I do. But this is also so much deeper than just one person. This starts at the home, okay? This starts with family. This starts with a seed that grows and grows. You can choose to have evil in your heart, or you can choose to have light. What you consume and what you absorb from the outside world will manifest itself. No, I will never agree with political violence. My husband is a victim of it. I'm a victim of it. But what I'm trying to say here is that we can blame everyone else. We have to look in the mirror. When you become a father, when you become a mother, how are you raising your kids? Are you taking responsibility, or are you giving them a device and saying, go down that rabbit hole? I'm trying to go to Pilates class. You can just sit in the corner and look at your iPad or look at your phone and go down that rabbit hole and see what you can learn from that instead of being a parent. So my call to action from that is, parents, step up. Do you want your kid to be a thought leader or an assassin? That's where we're at.
Do you think our political leaders have a responsibility to turn the temperature down right now?
Well, I think everyone has a responsibility to do that, and I'm doing my part. I'm not in control of other people.
She did not condemn Donald Trump. A woman whose husband was just gunned down by an assassin's bullet, by an assassin on a rooftop, won't condemn Donald Trump's calling for the hanging of Democrats. Instead, she talks about parents and Pilates and iPads, while talking about what you consume from the outside world will manifest in you. Is that what you believe of your husband, Charlie Kirk? Erica? Did what he consumed from the outside manifest in him? Did his making jokes about executing Joe Biden? This isn't even a joke. Here is him waxing about how Joe Biden deserves the death penalty, execution for his crimes against the nation.
I know what you're thinking. We got to get Joe Biden out of the way so we can run up against Cammie. Oh my goodness, is she beatable? It's like Black Hillary on steroids. Is she black? I guess she says she's Caribbean or whatever. It doesn't matter. She gives these speeches and it just has this aura of totalitarianism. My team says she's Indian and Caribbean. I'll tell you what, she would be a lot easier to beat than Joe Biden. A lot. I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America. But Kamala Harris, my goodness, there's something that just kind of is tribal where people are like, I don't know if I want this crazy person running the country.
Political violence. Was it what he consumed from the outside? Did it manifest in him when he was making jokes about the political violence brought against the husband of Nancy Pelosi, Paul Pelosi, saying that, well, somebody should go bail out his attacker? Oh, what a great deal that would be.
And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like $30,000 or $40,000. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
What he consumed from the outside world manifested in him. And apparently, what he consumed from the outside world was anti-black racism also.
We note in our piece that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. And Kirk's self-described very, very radical view that the country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true. As we note in the piece, Kirk has previously described Kirk as a hero and a civil rights icon. It's true. I used to be wrong. What inspired Kirk to shift his view on MLK? Why does Kirk think that MLK is a bad guy? When Kirk says that MLK says, quote, one good thing he didn't believe, what does he mean by that? Why does Kirk believe passing the Civil Rights Act was a mistake? Now, again, apparently they don't listen to the show because we do that at least once a week, right? Once a week we talk about why the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52.
But I rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, particularly in higher education. I may have been admitted on affirmative action, both in terms of being a woman and a woman of color, but I can declare that I did not graduate on affirmative action. This is my personal story.
I hear because of action affirmative. She can't even say that. We know. It's very obvious to us that you were not smart enough to be able to get in on your own. I couldn't make it on my own, so I needed to take opportunities from someone more deserving. You know, this is how arrogant Joy Reid and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee are. They're so narcissistic, they think this is persuasive. They think we're like, oh, of course, that's why we need affirmative action, because you have impressed us with your brilliance. Of course. Oh no, imagine the world without Joy Reid. Imagine the world without Sheila Jackson Lee or Michelle Obama or Ketanji Brown Jackson. They think this is persuasive. They think as they kind of now reveal that I'm only here because of anti-white, anti-Asian forced discrimination policies that turn me into a bitter, resentful activist that hates white people.
So this is just CBS News trafficking in the rehabilitation of Charlie Kirk through his widow, with her constantly dabbing at her eyes when no tears are present. The performance. Again, I believe she is sad, but she is either unwittingly or wittingly being used as a tool of white supremacy going forward. How's she in that? I don't control what other people do. Yeah, we know that. But you can certainly call, using the power and influence that you carry with you as the widow of Charlie Kirk, to say, hey, let's all bring the temperature down. Yes, my husband was a racist, Christian nationalist bigot. But we can imagine better things for the country. We can endeavor greater things than my husband and how he acted when he was alive. For the sake of your children, that's what you should be doing, Erica. And CBS has lost the plot. No longer a credible outlet at all. Zero credibility. And that we could touch on everything that happened this weekend with Margaret Brennan and Mifepristone. We could do that. But there's plenty of time moving forward to call out the Fox News nature of the new CBS. And we will be doing so. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. I will be on with the letter hack tonight. There'll be a link in the description below, 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. It's going to be a mystery for me, and it's not going to be. It is a mystery for me and you. Tune in and see how this goes. I love and appreciate you very much. Be genuine. Take care of one another. Here we are outside of Union Station, as you can see behind me. Yesterday, we were out here ready for the feds, Donald Trump's secret police, the park police. I don't know who exactly was involved in removing a method of harassment and intimidation, a group of veterans out here to protest Donald Trump and fascism. I am joined today by the illustrious crew. Introduce yourself, everybody.
I'm Jolly. Matt.
And I'm Laney.
And this is a group of patriots that are at the tip of the spear in protesting Donald Trump, having their names on permits. And let's start there. Your permit was not canceled, yet they came in the dark of night and conducted a raid, no?
And to put context on it, about a month and a half or so ago, the other group that's with us, Flair, who's also permitted to be here, was raided at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning by park police, had their permit revoked for no reason. And then the very next day after this, and all their stuff was stolen, the very next day...
Didn't they also shred their tents? Cut their tents up?
That day they didn't.
Okay.
This time they did. That time they didn't. So I think it was October 3rd or 4th when it happened. But the next day, Ted Cruz made a statement saying that he wants the tents gone from Columbus Circle. He said he's going to make Columbus Circle great again. And then since then, we've had this, push back and forth with National Park Services, trying to amend our permit for one way or another and can't get a response. And then we all saw it coming for some time. And then 36 hours before this happened, we received a written notice that we had to be gone by Wednesday. And number one, their own regulation says that would require a 48-hour notice, to be fair. And then number two, their rationale for kicking us out didn't make sense. We're going to start construction in the middle of December, right. 2 weeks before Christmas. It's about to snow. You're making it up. They're doing this to appease Ted Cruz and to appease MAGA, because the goal here is the same goal they've had the last 11 months, and that's to silence First Amendment speech.
Yeah. And you'll notice they didn't just tear out the tents, they put an entire fence covering so no one can even go in there. We have a peanut gallery out here, so
yeah. We're not doing anything.
So what's the plan? I mean, I know you guys aren't going to stop the protest. You're going to continue to resist with all of that you have within you.
Yeah.
So moving forward, we're off leash. We're looking at ways to move into operations that are going to disrupt, community terrorism.
Which is happening right now all across the country,
yeah.
But certainly here in Washington, D.C.
And, we were springboarded by National Park Service ahead of our schedule to just start moving forward with that. So the protest doesn't end. We're not stopping. It might look a little different, but we're still going to be out here.
And I think it's important that everyone understands we're talking to the ACLU. We've contacted another attorney. We're looking to do a First Amendment lawsuit and a Fourth Amendment lawsuit. Within their own regulations, they did not properly stop our permit, thereby interrupting our First Amendment right. And we have the same constitutional rights as everybody to not have our property illegally seized. So the consequences for a revoked permit is not the loss of your property. It requires a signature of a judge to have your Fourth Amendment right basically infringed. They've taken our equipment. You referenced earlier them shredding it. They cut stuff on it. They tore our stuff up.
Right.
Not only did they take it, they also just, treated it like it was trash. And so we will be filing a Fourth Amendment lawsuit as well.
Yeah, nice. What you want to add some perspective here as far as what I have my mic. What should people at home know about just how, well, there's some big old mittens, know exactly of why it's so important to resist in this moment?
Well, we came out here ourselves as veterans because we knew that people, tend to listen to veterans' voices. And so we wanted to come out to inspire people to, get active in their own communities, to not only build community, but defend their communities.
Yeah.
And so we hope to continue to move forward with that exact same mission. It's just going to be, phase 2.
It seems self-evident to this group, all of us having served, that it is a fool's errand to try to intimidate people who are trained in insurgency and counterinsurgency. I mean, it is just, it's idiocy on the part of all of these people. So many of them did not serve, including the chief, who has multiple draft deferments, who dodged the draft when his number was called and he had his moment to serve. And it wasn't just about molesting the flag on stage at fucking CPAC. So there's a lot of people out there who are comfortable in their homes, in their warm and cozy homes this holiday season. And you've got a bunch of patriots out there who are actually putting their safety on the line, their comfort on the line this holiday season for your rights, while their rights are being impinged upon by this administration.
I'm glad you said this part because I want to highlight that there's no construction happening over here.
Absolutely not.
This was a very last minute, complete bullshit. But I want to really highlight, in this park, you find a lot of unhoused people.
Yeah.
A lot of people from D.C. you find a lot of unhoused people go to city centers because there's more resources and supplies. And they found a home here in Columbus Circle. Well, now they kicked them out to put up their fence where nothing is happening. And all the money they're about to spend, from what I hear, to make this fountain spray water again, all of that money could have been spent to help those same unhoused people have resources, to help the people in D.C. have resources. The $1 million a day they spent for the Guard in this illegal deployment could have been used in the city of D.C. It could have been used to help the unhoused. It could have been used, if you believe there's a crime problem, to address those issues at the root of those issues. Park Police actually, a lot of people maybe didn't see this news come out. Park Police was told to stop hiring people because Park Police has actually now hired more people than any other police department in D.C. And they made the claim they want to become the superb police authority in D.C. You're the fucking Park Police, guys.
Right.
Let's relax.
Yeah. Well,
so that's how this money could be better spent.
I think that it goes unsaid that there is no concern for the things they cape about and act like they're concerned about. They say, well, we don't want to take care of homeless people because what about homeless vets? Well, then let's fund that. Well, no, that's socialism. They don't care about that. All they care about is harassment and intimidation, and they've gotten their way for now. This is one battle that we did not come out on top of, but it is not the end of the war or the fight in general.
When you rage against the machine will rage back.
That's right. We're going to leave it there. I want to say I very much appreciate you guys. It is just fucking fantastic and patriotic. This is what patriotism looks like. An actual adherence and love and following the oath that we all took when we raised our right hands and swore an oath to the Constitution to swear to protect and defend and support that document against all enemies, foreign and, in this case, domestic enemies to the Constitution.
And keep up with what we're doing on RememberYoath.org.
Yeah, you can keep up with what we're doing, where we're at, and how you can help us at RememberYourOath.org.
RememberYourOath.org, and follow everybody. All of their socials will be in the description of this video. If you have questions, hit me up. I'm in DC, they're in DC, and I'm sure we can connect again. As always, be genuine and take care of one another.
We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He says do it, and that's the end of that. You know, we have a different system.
Welcome to the Dollemore Daily. For those of you who are new here, I am Jesse Dollemore. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk about Donald Trump, obviously. You've seen the thumb, you've seen the title, you understand some of the gist of what I'm going to talk about. Donald Trump is on an authoritarian power grab spree. He believes himself to be a king, and not just of the United States. He has postured annexing Canada and making it the 51st state. He's currently, I did a video about this yesterday, kind of a bulleted list, a quick 2-minute and 50-second video or something about how many things Donald Trump is naming after himself. They are endeavoring to alter the Constitution so he can run for a third term in violation of the current Constitution, the current setup with the 22nd Amendment. And Donald Trump last night gave a speech in his little tux, or his big tux, and he intimated that things are going so well in America that the leaders of Europe want him to be their supreme leader, their king. He believes himself to be the leader of the entire world. This is problematic for a number of different reasons. Chief of them is that he believes himself to be better than the rest of us. He believes it is his divine ordained right to have the rest of the planet be subject to him. And this is also includes a just absolute lie-riddled estimate of the economy and the deficit by many, many orders of magnitude. He lies relative to what the actual number is about our deficit and what the impacts of tariffs, which are the thing that European leaders hate about what we're doing right now. One of many things. Watch Donald Trump declare himself to be the new European king at the request of actual Europeans.
Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. They're all saying it. Other leaders are saying it. The European nations are saying it. The European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before. So we're going to work very hard. We get along with them. We want to get along with as many nations as we can. We've been ripped off by a lot of them for a lot of years. And frankly, a lot of the Democrats knew that better than some of the Republicans. But we've been ripped off and taken advantage of by friend and foe. And in many cases, friend was worse than foe, but not anymore. We have, I don't know if you noticed, the deficit was cut down by 64%. Nobody's ever heard of a number like that. You know why? A thing called tariffs. The tariffs are so big and so substantial. And it was just announced 2 weeks ago, the deficit's cut down by, nobody ever heard of a number like that. If the deficit goes down by 2%, it's like a great thing. The tariffs have reduced the deficit by 64%. Nobody has ever seen. And frankly,
the European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of European nations also. There's really only two explanations for this line of thinking, this train of thought, and that is it's either delusional, that he is a demented, wherever the stage of his dementia is, it's either that, or he's a liar who obviously understands what's taking place. I don't see any other explanation that can be formed here. He's either lying, bullying, or he believes it to be true. There's no telling with Donald Trump because lies are his native tongue. It is his natural language. It's water rolling downhill. It's the path of least resistance. It's whatever's true, he's going to buck against. The whole thing about the deficit being down is just abjectly false. I'm going to read this from the United States Congress Joint Economic Committee. U.S. deficit decreases 2.8% to $1.8 trillion in fiscal year 2025. In fiscal year 2025, the nation ended with a $1.78 trillion deficit. That's $1,780 billion for the deficit in 1 year. 50 billion, 2.8% less than fiscal year 2024, leading to a decreased deficit impact was the record-setting tariff collections of $195 billion for fiscal year 2025. So it's not 64%, it's 2.8%. Liar. Sickening, wicked liar. And look, if this was a moment in isolation, if we could look at this in a vacuum and say, oh, this is just an isolated thing, he's just making a little cut and a joke. It's just Donald Trump being a jokester. That would be one thing. Well, that's not the case, though. Donald Trump constantly treats himself as some kind of a dignified, benevolent dictator type, a king, a sovereign. He has cabinet meetings where they go around the horn and each one of them caresses and fondles Donald Trump rhetorically about what a great and powerful man he is. It is, the real question is what's going on under the table at those cabinet meetings. Well, yesterday he had another lust for Xi Jinping, lust for the power that the communist leader of China has, in saying that we need to be unified, just like they are in China, because when Xi Jinping says something, everyone does what he says. We need a system like that, according to Donald Trump. Watch this from inside the Oval Office of the White House.
Again, I believe there'll only be one country that really benefits, and it should be the United States, and it will be if we do this and we're unified. We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He says do it, and that's the end of that. You know, we have a different system, but we have a system that's good, but we only have a system that's good if it's smart. David Sachs, can you say a few words, please?
Yes, sir.
We have a different system. Ostensibly by the context clues of language. Look, we have the commonality of language. We also understand tonality, and we understand someone's facial expressions while they're talking. This is disdain for the system we have. This is contempt for the system we have, a democratic system of checks and balances in this country that Republicans for decades have acted like is so genius, the founding fathers, with all their fake patriotism. Yet, no one's going to say anything about Donald Trump praising Xi Jinping, praising the communist system, praising the authoritarian system in China, and denigrating what we've got here. Donald Trump wishes, he desires nothing more than to be able to say how it is. He says, do it, and that's the end of it. Well, we have a different system. Crickets from the peanut gallery of Republicans. Nothing. They have nothing to say because they have bent the knee to Donald Trump. They worship at the throne of Donald Trump. He is their supreme dear leader as he pines for the powers of a Kim Jong-un, as he wants to put his own face on our currency, just like in North Korea, just like in the former Libya when it was ruled by Gaddafi, just like Bashar al-Assad in Syria. That Donald Trump wants that. He desires nothing more than that. Or at the very least, if he can't get it officially, he's going to signal like he has it and constantly talk about it. Anyway, I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it.
How many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
We are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Sejun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea.
Yesterday was a brutal hearing for the Secretary of Homeland Security, Ice Barbie Christino. So brutal, in fact, she left in the middle of it. She just got up and said, "Oh, I've got a thing I've got to do, and a meeting, and a conference, and a blah blah blah," that was actually canceled. She lied and got up and, like with cartoon feet, she yoinked out of there. And the reason is because she was owned. Questioning segment after questioning segment after questioning segment, just brutalized by questions seeking factual answers. And when you work for Donald Trump and you are at the tip of the spear of a terror operation on the streets of the United States, kidnapping our community members, abusing American citizens, incarcerating American citizens, using immigrations and customs enforcement to do so, ICE, Donald Trump's masked secret police force, it's not going to go well for you. And especially when you are deporting former members of the United States military, veterans of the United States military. Look, when I served in the United States Marine Corps, I served with several people who were born in other countries, who were not even citizens of the United States. It's pretty common. In fact, it must be, I'm just as anecdotal, but it must be very common because when I served in the 90s, I had several colleagues, fellow Marines who were born in other countries and were not citizens. They had green cards. You would think that Republicans would have enough respect for someone who would serve and put their life on the line, especially this particular veteran that we're talking about, who actually took fire, was injured in combat for the sake of the United States and her people. You would think Republicans would have enough respect for that to not deport out of the country these individuals. And this congressman, Magaziner, it is amazing the talent, the depth on the bench of talent that the Democrats have, because this guy, don't know who he is, and we need more of this energy. We need more of this preparation when you're faced with the fascist or fascist enabler, at the very least, Kristi Noem, trapping her about the respect for veterans, and then the line of questioning about why. Here's what you're getting ready to watch. I'll shut the hell up. He's asking about veterans, and she's like, yeah. Okay, well, joining us right now via iPad is the veteran that you said you didn't deport. Here he is deported and speaking from the country to which he was deported.
Madam Secretary, how many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Sejun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell Mr. Park why you deported him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. You have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you
Thank
to remember that
Madam
our
Secretary, the
programs
man
need to have
behind
integrity
you,
as
please
well.
stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He's married to a woman named Donna, who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in prison for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago. She is currently in prison and facing deportation. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service to our country.
Now, what possible explanation can there be for locking up his wife for 4 months when she has committed no crime other than writing a couple of bad checks for $80?
Sir, it is not my prerogative, my latitude, or my job to pick and choose which laws in this country get enforced.
You have
and
broad
which ones
discretion
don't.
as the secretary.
We need to
You can issue
the law
parole. You
and
can do all
enforce
kinds of
the
things,
laws.
but you're choosing not to.
How many veterans have you deported? We haven't deported any veterans. Joining us via Zoom is the veteran that you just lied and said you didn't deport. And then the guy with the Irish wife who wrote 2 checks that bounced totaling $80 10 years ago. And apparently now is the time to incarcerate that person for month upon month upon month before deportation. This is authoritarian goonery is what this is. This is a sickening attempt to create a white ethno-state, to kick out the undesirables, those that are deemed undesirable by Donald Trump. Even if it means violating the trust of the group that you claim time and time again to be loyalty to cherish, to venerate, to hold in high esteem. And they don't. They're liars. Anyway, I would love to know what you think about these topics here. If you're a veteran, validate what I'm saying here or refute it. If you served on active duty in the Marine Corps, but in any service, if you served on active duty, tell me what your experience was relative to serving with people who had green cards, who were just permanent residents of the United States, who felt enough duty and loyalty to the country to serve on active duty and in many cases combat over the course of the last few decades that we've been embroiled in military conflict across the globe. In the world and age of Donald Trump, you often hear the term bombshell thrown around a lot. This is a bombshell. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released photos, and there are many more to come that directly implicate Donald Trump in hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein with models, their faces are redacted, and a bowl of Trump condoms on which is printed, "I'm huge." It is no longer a situation where Donald Trump can deny his involvement and decade-and-a-half-long friendship, best friendship, according to Jeffrey Epstein, with Jeffrey Epstein. It just can't be done anymore. And Republicans are going to have a hard time here as he's losing a grip on reality itself of following this man to their certain demise. This is from CNN. I'm going to show you the photos after I read a couple paragraphs here. And then we're going to get to some members of Congress, both Democrat and Republican, who are speaking about this. And I'm also going to play something from the victim's attorney that he has no confidence in this administration to tell the truth about this. This is the headline from CNN, this breaking bombshell news. New photos released from Epstein's estate showing Trump, Bannon, Bill Clinton, and other high-profile people. I've said multiple times, I don't care who's involved in this. You're going to see photos, framed photos of Bill Gates on the walls of the home of Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton, thick as thieves with these people. Larry Summers also gallivanting. It's disgusting that men of high power and influence and position and considered important in our society would have anything to do, much less a deep friendship with a convicted rapist of girls. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate Friday showing that many powerful figures in the late sex trafficker's orbit, including President Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and others. Many of the men have been previously linked to Epstein, though the photos may shed new light on the extent of those relationships. Taken collectively, the 19 images, which the Democrats on the committee said came from the Epstein estate, reinforced the financier was tied in the past to a wide variety of powerful and high-profile people whose ties to him are now under significant scrutiny. Every single one of these people, if found to have committed crimes, needs to be burned to the ground. Bill Clinton or not, Bill Gates or not, who cares? If you harm children, if you victimize innocent children, you need to go. One released image shows Trump with 6 women with leis, like the Hawaiian flowers with leis, whose faces were redacted by committee members, while another depicts what appears to be a bowl of novelty condoms with a caricature of Trump's face with the text, "I'm huge." Other released images depict Steve Bannon and Epstein taking a photograph in a mirror, Bill Clinton with Epstein, Maxwell and another couple, and tech billionaire Bill Gates with the former Prince Andrew. Former Harvard president Larry Summers and lawyer Alan Dershowitz also appear in pictures from the estate. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little screen recording here, and I will show you these photos that have been released. Here's one of 16, Jeffrey Epstein with Steve Bannon on the desk. A framed photograph of a woman lying down is visible. Part of that photograph has been redacted by the House Democrats on the Oversight Committee. This is bizarre. This is Steve Bannon, thick as thieves with a rapist of children, a convicted pedophile and sexual abuser and trafficker. Tell me again that these people are patriots who have the best interest of America at heart. Here's, shocker, Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein on the set of one of his movies, ostensibly. Here are those condoms, the Trump condoms. We already know this is a lie. Huge. No. Trump condom, $4.50. I'm huge. What's going on? Strange that Donald Trump, who has nothing to do with this creep, has his face emblazoned on condoms at parties where sex trafficking and rape occurred. Here's Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard, with Jeffrey Epstein, or looks like Woody Allen there on the Jeffrey Epstein jet. Here's Jeffrey Epstein taking a little selfie action with Steve Bannon. Richard Branson of Virgin Empire, Virgin Airline, Virgin Hotels, Virgin Records, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. All of these people need to go. Here's Donald Trump. Trump poses with a group of women. The women's faces were redacted by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. Look at his little hand here, working its way down. Donald Trump, nothing to do with the creep. Nothing to do. Here's Woody Allen again with an unidentified woman and Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know all the years of these photos. I'm certain this will be coming out. Here's Jeffrey Epstein with Donald Trump. Here's the photo of what appears to be Bill Gates in an airplane or something that just happens to be framed on the wall of Jeffrey Epstein's house. That seems like a problem, Bill. Does it not? Mr. Philanthropist? Mr. Good for the human cause? Bill Gates? Another with Bill Gates and disgraced rapist of girls, former Prince Andrew, brother of King Charles, pedophile, child rapist. Bill Gates, glad-handed with the pilot. Jeffrey Epstein and Alan Dershowitz, Mr. I got a massage in my underwear. Another one of Woody Allen and Steve Bannon, who apparently really loves to hang out with people who are abusers. And then Donald Trump with an unidentified woman. And then we're going to wrap it up with this one of Bill Clinton, his big rosy cheeks, big rosy face, with an autographed photo of himself, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Every single one of these people needs to burn to the ground, needs to be jettisoned from polite society, put away so they can do no harm to children anymore. I'm gonna share this little clip with you. This is Robert Garcia, House Democrat, talking about the trove of photos. This is just a smattering, just a scintilla of what they have. There are more to come to the tune of tens of thousands of documents. Watch this.
Obviously, just last night, we received about 95,000 photographs from the Epstein estate. I want to be clear. Our committee, oversight Democrats have gone through maybe about 25,000 of them so far. So there's an enormous amount of photos that we have not gone through. It will take days and weeks to ensure that we go through those photos and that a redaction is done in the appropriate way. Let me just also say that clearly we have put out, I think maybe 15 to 20 of those photos this morning, Democrats have. We will continue to put out more photos in the days and weeks ahead. But I just caution folks that the redaction process and ensuring that we are protecting the survivors and the women who were abused by Epstein are protected.
What else do you... 95,000 photographs. There's going to be more. Donald Trump must be sweating bullets. Even Donald Trump, who acts like, oh, he's untouchable. He can't be harmed by anything. He is panicking about this because this is his worst nightmare. Now we're learning exactly why he refused to release these files. Now we know exactly what's going on here. And Epstein's victim's lawyer. Oh, actually, let's save that one for last. Here's Thomas Massie, Republican, who has been instrumental in getting the discharge petition passed and the vote to come to the House floor to force the DOJ to release these files. Here he is on the question of what if they decide not to release them.
If DOJ doesn't release the files it has by next Friday, is there anything Congress can do to compel that to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a crime if they don't. It's not like they're in contempt of Congress because they didn't respond to a subpoena. This is a new law with, criminal implications if they don't follow it. But I was encouraged, again, by the fact that they went back to these three judges and got the judges to release the grand jury material to the DOJ. Thank you, Congress.
Is that grand jury material enough, do you think,
No.
to comply with the law?
No, the grand jury material is just a small fraction of what the DOJ needs to release, because the FBI and DOJ probably has evidence that they chose not to take to the grand jury, because the evidence they're in possession of would implicate other people, not Epstein or Maxwell. So the grand jury material is probably going to just be mostly facts and evidence that was used to convict those two. And what we want to see are the facts and evidence that the FBI and the DOJ have never given to a grand jury.
It's a crime if they don't release them, simply stated. And then let's end with this. This is one of the lawyers for the many, many dozens, if not hundreds, of Epstein victims. And he is stating clearly what the rest of us already know, that Donald Trump and this administration is unreliable. They cannot be counted on to tell the truth.
It's mixed. There is some very cautious optimism that something will be released on the 19th. But the problem is that this administration has given the survivors and, frankly, the American public no assurance that they are trustworthy when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein files. As we sit here right now, Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker, is in a minimum security resort-style prison playing with puppies and having special meals. There's just no trust from the public. There is certainly no trust from the survivors that on December 19th, the administration is going to be fully transparent, because they've been everything but fully transparent for months and months and months.
And let me end with this. The press had better do their jobs. They had better hunt this story down, track these people down, ask the appropriate questions. Do not glad hand with these individuals in power with your access journalism. For the sake of the victims, do the right thing. Luxuriate under the protection of the First Amendment of the Constitution, which specifically outlines the protection of the free and fair press. Do your job. This is huge. What do you think? Speaking of huge, what do you think? I invite you. I want to hear from you on this.
Who approved the asylum application for this same person?
Mr. Thompson, this individual that came into the country.
No, I want to know who approved.
Congressman Thompson, I want you to understand when this individual came into the country, he came under
the brutalizing, the justifiable brutalizing of Kristi Noem, the ICE Barbie, the photo op expert, the dressing up cosplay as though she's going to go out on an urban assault raid. Kristi Noem, starring in commercials while she's riding across the beautiful countryside of the United States on horseback, and then narrating a video about the white ethno-state that she wants to create. Yesterday, she was grilled by Benny Thompson, the former chairman of this very committee. He's now the ranking member since the Democrats are out of the majority, asking about the tragic shooting, the killing, the murder of Sarah Beckstrom, the 20-year-old West Virginia National Guard service member who was killed on the streets of Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago. And Benny Johnson is getting to the point of who granted the shooter, the alleged shooter, who granted this person asylum. We know it's been reported, it's not even been refuted, that he was allowed entry into the country by Joe Biden in 2021, September of 2021, after having served with the United States military, after having been in a unit of trained by and funded by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. It seems that there would have been some vetting involved with getting him to work so closely with troops, to be in such a position of confidence that they trusted him to be on the ground and operationally active with our United States military and the IC, the intelligence community. So Donald Trump granted him asylum, and it's the one thing they just will not say. We know it to be true. The facts are laid out. We have the documentation, and they are just working against work, hoping against hope, straining against strain, like Donald Trump on the toilet every morning, to not admit what is going on here. And Benny Johnson got right to the heart of it. Now, what you're going to be hearing in the media over the course of the next few hours and days is the fact that Benny Johnson said it was an unfortunate incident, or however he phrased it, which was, an unfortunate way to phrase it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that her murder, her killing, was an unfortunate incident. They're gonna try to make this about something else. But watch this moment where he invariably threatens her with perjury charges for her lies. It's quite something to behold. Watch this moment from the hearing yesterday where Kristi Noem again was repeatedly hammered.
Madam Secretary, you and the gentleman from NCTC reference the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsman being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean,
It was a terrorist attack.
Wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsman in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question? It was an unfortunate situation, but you blamed it solely on Joe Biden. I want you to know who approved the asylum application for this same person.
Mr. Thompson, this individual that came into the country.
No, I want to know who approved.
Congressman Thompson, I want you to understand when this individual came into the country, he came under evacuation of Afghanistan under Operation Allies Welcome, was thoroughly vetted by the Biden administration at that point in time, allowed into our country, and then was never followed up. I want to remind everybody in Congress.
Reclaim my time.
We follow the law. And every asylum is supposed to have a check-in every single year, and the Biden administration failed to do that. They vetted this individual, allowed them into our country, and did not do due diligence.
Witness will allow the gentleman to ask his question.
Yes or no? Who approved the asylum claim?
The application on the asylum was thoroughly filled out by information that was gathered by the Biden administration.
So the Biden administration approved the asylum.
The asylum application was put into place under the rules established by the Biden administration.
Reclaiming my time. I don't want to file perjury charges against you, but I'm of the opinion that the Trump administration, DHS, your DHS, approved the asylum application.
The asylum application moved forward under all of the information and vetting processes that were put in place under the Biden administration, which is when vetting happened. And that's what President Trump has changed. Under President Trump's administration.
Reclaim my time again.
When
it's obvious you don't want to answer the question. Mr. Kent, do you want a shot at it?
There are certain ways that are better than others to deal with these people who want to filibuster, who want to talk over the questioner. Their role there is a constitutionally mandated one. Congress has oversight over the executive branch of government. It is one of the brilliant, genius checks and balances that are baked into the Constitution and our government by design by our framers. And she is there not as a courtesy to Congress, she's required to be there. And instead of just answering questions, she obfuscates, she distracts, she tries to filibuster, she tries to argue. And she lies. And perjury charges should be placed against her, should be made against her. She should resign. And if she doesn't resign, when Democrats take control of the House of Representatives in this next Congress, she should be impeached, convicted, and removed by the United States Senate. And as an element of what their power would be in a conviction, they should vote to forbid her, disqualify her from running for federal office ever again. That is within the powers granted the Senate by the Constitution of the United States. Now, after this particular moment, attention-seeking clout chaser Andy Ogles from Tennessee, the man who intends to have Donald Trump run for a third term, to amend the United States Constitution or come up with some other scheme to allow Donald Trump to run, he got his camera time. He was seeking, how can I make this moment about me? And then went off about the unfortunate incident comment that was made by Benny Thompson. Watch this.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. That was a murder that took place in D.C. It was not an unfortunate incident. And those comments are effing disrespectful.
Who is it?
I expect better from the
It's not a valid point of order. I will now recognize the gentleman from Texas, the former chairman, Mr. McCall, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, great to see you.
All right, you got your 30 seconds on camera, Andy. Now I guess it's time to go back to your little hidey hole and shut the fuck up. How about that, sir? Anyway, what do you think out there? I would love your conversation about this in the comments. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me the old-fashioned way, daily@dollemore.com. Please consider, I'll ask this in this video, please consider supporting the work I do. If you appreciate independent media, and specifically if I bring you value on a video by video basis or day to day, if you derive something from what I do for you, please consider supporting this work for $2 a month. You can become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button below the video, or just on my channel in general, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast and help support this work in independent media and truth-telling, political analysis and commentary, all of those things. You can support what I do and take part in it. Democrats need to start acting like the opposition party and not the minority party. If you want us to give you power to be in the majority, start doing the work now. Speaking of the disaster of a hearing for Kristi Noem that was yesterday in the House Homeland Security Committee, a Congresswoman Ramirez, is now initiating an investigation into Kristi Noem that is a precursor to her impeachment. Let me share you this tweet from Delia C. Ramirez, a Congresswoman. Secretary Noem, your options are limited. You either resign, your supreme leader fires you. I love it. This is the energy we need from Democrats, by the way. Not my good friend across the aisle, and we just have a different way of looking at the world, and we just have different prescriptions of policy for the country. Not that. When you're dealing with white supremacists, when you're dealing with this new breed of Nazi, you treat them like they are. You treat them like the Nazis they are, like the racists they are, the white supremacists they are, the creators of a glorious white ethno-state that they want to be. Her tweet continues, your supreme leader fires you or you will be impeached. Today, I took the first steps toward your impeachment and called on the Judiciary Committee to open an investigation into your lawlessness. And I hold in my hands that letter. This is why as an aside, it is so important to get involved. You, right now, start getting involved in political campaigns at your local level. Because we need to flip the House in an overwhelming fashion. We need everybody on board to vote for impeachment, send it to the Senate, which hopefully also is flipped in a grand fashion, so we can secure the more than a majority of votes that we need to get a conviction to remove these people from doing the dangers that they are. We need to take the legs out from the Trump administration, to render them powerless, cripple them from their ability to harm Americans, to harm American citizens, to harm residents of this country, whether they're here documented or not. People who prop up the United States economy, who create an atmosphere where restaurants can flourish instead of people hiding at home because they can't go to work because they're afraid they'll be deported. This is the letter. Dear Chairman Jordan and Ranking Member Raskin, under Secretary Kristi Noem's leadership, the Department of Homeland Security has done irreversible harm to our Constitution, trampling the rights of all people and disregarding the rule of law. Secretary Noem, has established a clear pattern of lawless behavior, mirrored in the behavior of rank and file members of her leadership team. She disregards the separation of powers, breaks the law, violates standards of ethical behavior set for those in public office, and misuses resources appropriated by Congress. When taken together, her actions violate her oath of office. Notably, Secretary Noem has misused resources appropriated by Congress and engaged in unethical behavior. Here are some examples. Recent news reports established that at least one beneficiary of DHS's wasteful $200 million taxpayer-funded propaganda campaign had long-standing and personal ties to the secretary and her senior aides at the Department of Homeland Security. The strategy group's involvement in the ad campaign. This is the ad campaign I was talking about. I don't know if it was earlier in this video or earlier, where she's gallivanting on horseback across the countryside. We'll throw up some B-roll. Let me get the B-roll, write that down because I don't have it prepared. And that'll be running right now. Look at that. Present Jesse is helping out future Jesse in assisting past Jesse. Woo! The space-time continuum just ripped open. The strategy group's involvement in the ad campaign is a clear example of money flowing from DHS to those with ties to Secretary Noem, her allies, and her friends. Secretary Noem also exploited her position to purchase 2 Gulfstream private jets for $172 million. Secretary Noem ordered a partisan video to be played in airports nationwide during the government shutdown that began on October 1st in clear violation of the Hatch Act. The problem there lies in the fact that it's usually the executive branch, typically the executive branch, the President of the United States, who determines whether or not there will be repercussions, there will be consequences for violating the Hatch Act for people within the executive branch. And of course, the corrupt goon, Donald Trump, he's not going to hold her accountable. Secretary Noem has repeatedly made false and misleading statements to Congress and to the press. Here are some examples. Secretary Noem claimed that ICE and Border Patrol had not detained American citizens. However, reporting shows that at least 170 United States citizens have had their rights and civil liberties violated by DHS. Secretary Noem claimed that DHS could not bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. However, in reality, they brought him back to the U.S. shortly thereafter. Secretary Noem misrepresented the engagement that led to the use of excessive force on Senator Alex Padilla at a press conference. Secretary Noem misrepresented the number of people with a criminal background DHS had detained. In reality, nationally, approximately 75,000 people have been detained and do not have a criminal record. Now, I could go on here, but I don't think there's a need. I will put a link to this document. You've seen the both pages here. You can pause the screen and read the rest. And there are things in here that she did not even get listed because the letter was written yesterday. For instance, her lying in committee and saying, we have not deported any military veterans who served valiantly or even dishonorably from the United States military. She lied. They have deported veterans. That's perjury right there. That is certainly worthy of impeachment, conviction, and removal. So my thanks to Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. We need more energy like this from Democrats. We need Democrats in the Senate especially to stop voting to confirm Donald Trump's nominees, to stop voting for the agenda of Donald Trump, stop voting for these meaningless, idiotic statements of intent about socialism being a scourge against the country, the planet. Stop. Democrats need to start acting like the opposition party and not the minority party. If you want us to give you power to be in the majority, start doing the work now. What do you think? Fire it up on a Friday. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video.
You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, and in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation...
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%.
I can only imagine that it must be very difficult to work for Donald Trump in times where the thing you're paid to lie about, in the case of Caroline Leavitt, is the economy and not some high level kind of abstraction about the stock market or other such thing. But like, people go to the grocery store, they pay for eggs, they pay for meat, they pay for groceries. Oh, it's an old fashioned word. They pay for their groceries and they know that they're paying more than they used to pay, which is inflation. Yesterday, during the press briefing, Caroline Leavitt, I mean, seriously, I have no sympathy for her because she is a liar and a fascist enabler, but it's an impossible job she is endeavoring to achieve here, to accomplish. And Caitlin Collins from CNN really held her feet to the fire about inflation, about the price of groceries going up, about people who go to the grocery store and know that they're being lied to by the President of the United States and his cadre of goofs when they say, oh, everything's good, prices are down. Inflation is actually less now than it was when we took office. And she's using a metric to get to that number that is just lies. It's an average of the 8 months, a full 8-month period when inflation really didn't start to kick in until Liberation Day, when Donald Trump imposed his dangerous, damaging tariffs that the world hates, America hates, everybody hates them except people who are paid to love them, paid by Donald Trump and hired by Donald Trump, who kiss the ass of Donald Trump. That is their chief objective in life, is to make sure the dear leader feels good about all of the bullshit that he pulls. Watch this moment in the press briefing room. And then I got a clip on the other side, which was kind of just a response video on CNN from Caitlin Collins to this very moment, bringing the receipts. First, though, watch the fascist enabler stutter and try to get her bearings about her and figure out how she's going to escape from the facts.
Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $2.75. You look at the tax cuts, those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure, and people like you just took her at her word, and those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth, backed by real factual data, and you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president. Go ahead.
Everything I'm telling you is the truth, and you don't want to report on it because you just want to hurt Donald Trump. Oh, the dear leader's not going to be happy with this. Cutting her off and moving on. That number she's giving you is incorrect. She's the 2.5%. She's giving you an average of all of the time Donald Trump has been in office, not where inflation is at this very moment. And if you look at the average across all the months, it's including months where the tariffs hadn't taken effect yet. So the inflation was roughly where it was when Biden left office. And was inflation bad during COVID? Yeah, of course. Supply chain nonsense and gougeflation with all of these companies increasing prices while shrinking the size of their boxes of cereal and toilet paper packs and everything else. They were profiteers on the calamity and the disaster that was the pandemic. We all witnessed it. We were impacted by it just like everybody else because we live in reality. So these are all lies that are being told. It's just a fool's errand to try to protect the ego and self-esteem of the precious dear leader who is a dipshit, a dumb fuck who doesn't know anything about anything other than how to grift expertly. Now, Caitlin Collins did something that I think is relatively unprecedented. It's almost like making herself the story, which in this case, I fully endorse. I approve, because this little video that they aired on CNN talking about this exchange just puts to rest any argument about whether or not Caroline Leavitt was lying. Now, you could make your own estimation as to whether she was lying well, whether she was a good little liar or a bad liar, but you be the judge after you watch this response that was aired on CNN.
We had the greatest economy in history in my first term. I think we're blowing it away right now.
That was President Trump tonight in the Oval Office, touting the state of the U.S. economy as his standing with voters on what is historically a strong issue for him has sharply declined recently. Earlier, in a post on Truth Social, the president again falsely claimed that there is currently no inflation. That isn't true, but it comes after his White House press secretary grew defensive over the administration's statements about the economy during today's press briefing. It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too.
Now, despite what Caroline Leavitt argued, we did cover inflation during the Biden administration, whether that was questioning his press secretary or the president himself. And what's the White House's expectation for the inflation report that is expected to come out this week?
I don't have a prediction. I know I sometimes do, but I don't have a prediction on it at this moment from here.
President Biden, inflation has just hit nearly a 40-year high. Do you think this is the peak of those prices?
Every other aspect of the economy is racing ahead. It's doing incredibly well.
One thing that they do address in here is inflation. Prices are still incredibly high across the United States. Prices are still incredibly high as they had skyrocketed over the last year. Higher prices are plaguing President Biden. President Biden came out and said that fighting inflation is going to be his #1 priority. President Biden acknowledging the pain of higher prices. President Biden staring down a massive political liability, a massive headache for the White House. At least one top White House official is admitting they were wrong when they said that inflation only posed a small risk, if any risk at all. So the bottom line is we did cover it, and we did certainly ask about it. Of course we did. We covered the news here. But when it comes to the numbers themselves, as CNN's Daniel Dale highlights tonight of where we stand right now, the year-over-year inflation rate in January, when President Trump returned to office, was 3%. In September, the most recent month for which the Consumer Price Index figures were released, the rate was also 3%. It's a fact my colleague from CBS News, Nancy Cordes, highlighted moments later in the briefing today.
First, very quickly clarifying Caitlin's question. You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, and in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation.
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%, the average CPI right now. I have it in front of me. In President Trump's first 8 months in office, inflation as measured by the overall Consumer Price Index has slowed to a 2.5 average pace. This is down from the 2.9% inherited in January.
I mean, come on, man. That's the way it should be done. The problem, one of the problem lies, and this is kind of an aside, it's a tangent, but CNN they're looking to purchase the Ellisons, the same family that just bought CBS and transformed it into Fox News Light under the guise of, or under the leadership and auspices of the brilliance of Barry Weiss. They're looking to do that to CNN. They want to functionally alter how news is reported in this country so that they don't, so that the administration, the fascists who work for Donald Trump, don't have to face tough questions. So where every outlet is just a propaganda dissemination tool of this administration. We're witnessing that at the Pentagon, fully being completely changed with how they cover. That these people are just, they have offices in the Pentagon now, and whatever line the Pentagon gives them, they disseminate. Anybody who was a legitimate journalist who had to sign some ethics, anyway, that is a tangent. I'm really going off now. It's just nonsense. We need more of this. We need more of this from CNN, more of this from the former Daily Caller, the outfit started by Tucker Carlson that Caitlin Collins used to work for. It's nice to see that there's some actual journalism being done still at CNN, since Jake Tapper saw fit to bend the knee to Donald Trump and work his magic for Donald Trump. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like and follow the Dollemore Daily on Facebook. We're close to 40,000. We might be just at 40,000 or maybe just over it. I don't check it every day. But this is a way for you to share these videos. If you're watching right now on YouTube, you can go over on Facebook and share these natively. It's not a link. Zuckerberg's not going to suppress the reach of the videos there unless I get a little too radical. But, I can only do so much. Anyway, I would appreciate that very much. You can also subscribe on YouTube. That's free. And comment below.
And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that.
Donald Trump has been suffering some losses lately. And I don't mean memory losses or giant chunks of his cognition. That goes unsaid. That is a self-evident fact that it's been revealed to us by virtue of the fact that we live in reality and we can see things and hear things with our eyes and ears. But Donald Trump lost a fight in Indiana, partly because he's been just freely using slurs against intellectual disabled people, and people who have kids with Down syndrome are like, I'm not going to be bullied by Donald Trump. I'm not going to foist forward the agenda of this guy who's abusing people in my family, my children. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is kind of nebulous as to why Indiana chose to not go through with the anti-democratic agenda of Donald Trump to redraw their legislative maps and to cut out any Democratic representation, to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the state of Indiana. They said no. Donald Trump threatened them with a total cutoff of all federal funds, the things that fund their roads and their social safety net programs. And much of what goes on inside the state is funded by the federal government. It's how our system is kind of set up, right? So Donald Trump is threatening them. We're going to cripple your state unless you do this fascist thing for me. They said no. He threatened to primary all of them. If you don't do it, you'll be out of a job. We will spend millions of dollars to see that your statewide, your your local elections are tampered with by the might of the Republican Party and our funding. He's threatening. It was a full court press to try to get this done, and they said no. Even his acolytes, Donald Trump's little loyal Nazi soldiers at the Heritage Foundation got on the action. They tweeted this: President Trump has made it clear to Indiana leaders, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved. Guard bases will close. Major projects will stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote will be to blame. Hashtag pass the map. You know, the states' rights organization, the great defenders of the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, Heritage Foundation, is now saying, fall in line, do what the federal government says, or else. The 10th Amendment, for your edification, if you don't know, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's roughly any power that is not specifically granted to the federal government or specifically forbidden of the states is for the states to have. So things like redrawing your own legislative maps, that's not even a 10th Amendment issue. That is a constitutional grant of power to the states. And Donald Trump doesn't want that. He's all about 10th Amendment when it comes to things that help his agenda, but then he's totally opposed to it. And I'm a king. I'm a dictator. I have all the power. You have to do what I say otherwise. So yesterday he was asked about this, about the vote going against him. And of course, Donald Trump, because he is just a weak and just a self-esteem non-existent. Mom hugged him too much. Dad didn't hug him enough. And he's punished by it in his adulthood. In his elderly years, he can't let go of the fact of how he was treated by his parents as a child. He's just that much of a weakling. And he was asked about this, and he says, well, actually, I didn't have much to do with that. I didn't work really hard on that. It's okay that it failed. Even though he threatened them. He levied threats of primary. He levied threats of cutting off federal funding so they couldn't pave their roads. He dispatched the army of goons from the Heritage Foundation to level threats too. He worked on it very hard. And he just wants everybody to believe otherwise, even though we view the reality, we view the world through a reality lens and not fucking fantasy land like Donald Trump. Watch this moment from the Oval Office.
Mr. President, in Indiana, just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. You have spent a lot of time talking about this. The Vice President traveled to Indiana. What's your reaction?
Well, we won every other state. That's the only state. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide, and I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whenever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved. But there's a man named Bray, I guess, head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name? Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's I think in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against it.
Mr. Barnes, I can ask you briefly.
Sure.
It's the same thing he says all the time. Oh, I don't even know that person very well. George Papadopoulos, he got us coffee. I don't even know who that is. Who is that guy? He did the same with Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. He wasn't really even involved. He was the campaign manager. Anytime anything goes wrong for Donald Trump, he disavows any knowledge. Oh, yeah, that wasn't that wasn't a passion of mine. Not at all. The problem is that Republicans are under the foot of Donald Trump. Donald Trump squarely has the boot of his tyrannical attitudes on their necks, and some of them willingly. You've got some of these ghouls who are just masochistic in the manner with which Donald Trump treats them. They get turned on by it. Troy Nels from Texas is one. But there are others who are partially on that line. This guy, Marlon Stutzman from Indiana, is really trying to walk a tightrope here between pleasing the dear leader and agreeing that federal funding should be cut off, and then displeasing his constituency of people from Indiana who don't want federal funding cut off. Here's a little piece of a conversation between him and Jake Tapper on CNN yesterday, where he is really just in an unenviable position of either trying to kiss Donald Trump's ass or be loyal to his constituency.
And that's why I'm really disappointed. I think it was a terrible decision.
So do you think, as Heritage Action suggested should happen now, that all federal funding should be cut from Indiana? Do you think that you should not have money to pave the roads in Indiana? You shouldn't have money to fund the guard bases in Indiana? Because that is what the administration was suggesting. Presumably you now support that.
We have a lot of projects that we've been working on in Indiana. And look, we know that, just like in business, you work with people who work with you. And, President Trump asked for this. Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, he put a ton of time making phone calls. There was pushing, pulling, and some of the excuses, there was no good excuse that I heard other than this just breaks precedent or the president was being a bully about it. This is politics. I mean, this is hardball and we're playing softball. And so my belief is that, you know what, he's going to look at Indiana and say, look, we want to work together, but I need your help, and the state Senate failed to help today.
So you think that Indiana should not get federal funding anymore?
No, I think, that it makes our job harder as a delegation here. Now, he's going to look at states like Texas or Florida or Ohio, Missouri, North Carolina, states that are moving ahead and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure that the House Republicans have the support that they need to be sure we hold the majority. I mean, Al Green, he already filed impeachment articles today in the House. That's what's going to happen as soon as Democrats take control of the House of Representatives.
Al Green has been filing impeachment since you and I were in the cradle.
Once Akeem Jeffries is Speaker, there will be even more of that. And so, but no, I mean, I hope not. I want to work with the president. I want to make the case why it's important to invest in Indiana. Indiana has a lot of good things going. Unfortunately, we just don't have a state Senate that sees the big picture and understands the national implications of this.
And then look, I mean, as hilarious as that is, as just irritating as it must be to be in that guy's congressional district, then you got the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who was asked by Manu Raju of CNN yesterday about the Indiana thing and whether Donald Trump is losing power, having some impact on what takes place. He's not the shot caller he once was. And Mike Johnson wants you to know, no, he's the most influential president ever. He is a great and mighty man with a 1-foot penis that I love. Paraphrasing, but watch Mike Johnson.
Does the Indiana vote, are you worried about Trump's grip on power after Indiana? Do you think it shows he's a lame duck?
Not at all. We're not
Is he a lame
worried
duck?
about. No, he is not a lame duck. He's the most powerful president of this generation and many others. We have a lot more work to do together. The outcome in Indiana is inconsequential to that. We are going to win the midterm. No, he didn't. No, he did not put in major pressure campaign for it. He let his opinion be known as he does on everything, all the time, all day long. We win some, we lose some. It is no indication whatsoever about what's going to happen next year in the midterm elections. We are excited about that. We have a great campaign to run. We go forward regardless of how each one of these states comes out. We're going to win on whatever maps are presented. So I'm very bullish. I'm more bullish today than I was yesterday, and you'll see that. And you guys underestimate us. You'll see that.
Sir, is Trump continuing Venezuela?
He's not a lame duck. He's the most powerful person of a generation. He did not put on a major pressure campaign despite all of the things that we've witnessed. Despite everything we've seen from Donald Trump and all of the threats and all of the intimidation, it wasn't very much. Yeah. Mike Johnson, he cannot get enough of that Trump grundle butter, am I right? He just wipes it under his nose so it's constantly being breathed in every single day. Do not Google grundle butter. If you don't know what it is, don't Google it. I'd be doing you a grave disservice. Anyway, what do you think? If you're from Indiana, if you're from Stutzman's, is that name Stutzman? If you're from his district, I'd love to hear from you.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist?
There's a concerted effort underway by Donald Trump and Republicans and this entire fascist movement within the United States to paint any enemy perceived, whether real or not, of Donald Trump as a terrorist organization. We've seen the dipshit Nazi wannabe Stephen Miller say that the Democratic Party is a domestic extremist organization, and they want to label Democrats as terrorists, maybe officially, which would cut off the ability to raise money for campaigns. And if you're involved with the party, that makes you a terrorist. If you have a tangential relationship to the party, you're a terrorist. If you help courier money between candidates from donors to candidates, you're a terrorist. If you're donating money, you're a terrorist. It just shuts the whole operation down. That's what they want. Antifa is the thing. It's the boogeyman they've been talking about for years and years, though. Even though Antifa isn't an organization, Antifa doesn't have a membership list. Antifa is an ideology. It's an idea. Anti-fascism. Antifa. That's what it is. And Benny Thompson yesterday, congressman from Mississippi, a brilliant man. Yesterday, he chaired the House Select Committee overseeing the investigation into the insurrection against the country. You'll remember him then. But he was questioning a guy who is I want to get it right. I'm going to talk about his bio later. But he's the operations director of the National Security Branch, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Michael Glasheen is his name. Glasheen, whatever is how to pronounce it. And Benny Thompson did this brilliant move where he asks him a couple of questions, getting him a little comfortable, and then pulls out the big guns and asks him, where is Antifa's headquarters? Who are the leaders of Antifa? Obviously, if you're wanting to list them as a terrorist organization, a domestic extremist organization, you got to have the deets, right? You're going to be able to tell me all of these details. And it is a flounder fest on the part of this dipshit who has a storied, a long many decades career in the federal government. He's a former fellow United States Marine, which brings me great dismay that he's now working in service to an anti-constitutional, anti-democratic fascist in Donald Trump, making excuses for him. Watch this moment, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's at play here and who he is.
President Trump had just announced executive order to domestic terrorist organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now.
All right, that's what President Trump did. What does the FBI say?
We share the same view. When you look at the data right now, you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist? If it's a terrorist organization, and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? We're trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the #1 domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
So you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove, I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
He said it at the beginning of the clip. The reason they're doing it is because Donald Trump directed them to do so. Donald Trump is using the weight and power, the full width and breadth of the weight and power of the United States government and its law enforcement against his ideological opponents. Even having to make up that Antifa is like a real group with a storefront, with a brick and mortar headquarters. It's not even a loose band. There is no official Antifa. It's not a thing. It's not like the Ku Klux Klan, which has an organizational structure and a grand wizard. They're okay with that. But they want to demonize Antifa, a group of people who are anti-fascist, like me. If you're opposed to fascism, you're Antifa. And who would not want a group that's opposed to fascism if not fascists? Am I right? So this is a little bit about Mr. Michael H. Glasheen. He is the operational director for the FBI's National Security Branch. And I want to read a few things from this Congress-provided bio of him. That particular job that he does, it says this responsibility encompasses the Counterterrorism Division, Counterintelligence Division, Threat Screening Center, and Directorate of Intelligence. He's not just a dum-dum. He's not just some idiot who doesn't know better. He knows better. He knows precisely what Antifa is and what Antifa is not. And he is just following the dear leader, following the supreme cult leader, and whatever he says, rather than do the principled thing and stand up against working for a fascist. He leans in. He bends the knee. He disregards his service in the United States Marine Corps, his supposed, ostensible, long history of leadership. He's just abdicating that role to be a fucking follower, and a follower of a dipshit, a threat to the good order and discipline of our military and our federal law enforcement, as we've witnessed, because they are now masked thugs rounding up people in communities all across the country, kidnapping them with no due process off the streets, including American citizens. Mr. Glasheen joined the FBI in 2001 and was assigned to the Chicago field office, where he specialized in international terrorism investigations. In 2011, he was promoted to a supervisory special agent in the Counterterrorism Division at FBI headquarters. In 2014, Mr. Glasheen transferred to the Seattle field office, where he was a Joint Terrorism Task Force, SSA, followed by a promotion to the Assistant Special Agent in charge over the Seattle Counterterrorism Program. In 2019, Mr. Glasheen returned to the CTD at FBI headquarters as a section chief with the International Terrorism Operations Section. This is a guy who knows better. This is a guy who has the full understanding, the full breadth of experience to know what he's doing, and he's still choosing to do the wrong thing. Mr. Glasheen has served at the Washington field office as special agent in charge over the Counterterrorism Division from 2021 to 2023. In 2023, Mr. Glasheen was appointed as the director of Terrorist Screening Center, now known as the Threat Screening Center, and served in that capacity until 2025. And then the thing that you need to know, the only thing actually, I could have just skipped to this sentence, the only thing you need to know about who he is, what his motivations are, what his qualifications are, where his loyalties lie, is this. In 2025, FBI Director Kash Patel selected Mr. Glasheen as one of his 5 operations directors. When you're handpicked by Kash Patel, it means you're no good. You are up to no good. You have ill intent. Your loyalties are not where they should be. Mr. Glasheen, fellow Marine, dipshit, fascist enabler, and terrible liar, as witnessed by the clip that, or as you just witnessed watching that clip of the questioning with Benny Thompson, who did a fantastic job. More of that energy, more of that expertise, more of this, please. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you. I hope you are Antifa and you're not a terrorist, right? I'm going to go. I hope you have a great weekend. Maybe I'll do a little work this weekend. We'll see how it goes. I'll see you next time. Be genuine and take care of one another.